What show is this? What if I just make you do all the intro stuff that I always do? I'm just gonna put you on the spot.
I mean, this is film school dropouts. You know
Well,
what it is.
he nailed it. He
This is
nailed it, folks.
October. Well, we're not going to date ourselves.
Why would we do that?
That's
We've
terrible.
never done that.
That's terrible.
Immediately carbon date this episode.
Just boom. You
really
toss
funny.
me the reins, and I immediately drop the reins.
Just drove it right off a cliff. Yeah, everyone, this is Film School Dropouts. It's a movie podcast. In each season, we talk about a different director and their full filmography. I'm not going to kill anyone off this week because.
Oh, thank God.
What if I just said, like, unless it's Quentin Tarantino, we're just never going to do them.
Well, I mean, what's the point of the podcast at that point? You know, we're talking about the best of...
Everyone's talked about Quentin Tarantino. What more do we have to say?
We get to watch good movies.
A couple. That'd be my whole hot take. It's like, yeah, he's got like 2 good movies.
Wow. Just the whole scene, just
trolling.
No. Yeah, no.
Anyways, yeah, this is season 4 of our show.
Yep.
I'm gonna end up.
I got that right.
Yeah, season 4. We're talking Ridley Scott, the 20th century films of Ridley Scott. We're gonna be talking about all of his films up until Gladiator, and then we're gonna take a break from him because he has way too many movies to do all in one sitting. It would be exhausting. So we're gonna take a break from him and come back to him in a couple seasons. But right now we're kind of in the thick of it, and we're talking about Black Rain.
Black Rain.
1989. I don't have any of the stats in front of me right now.
That's fine. It's 1989. Yeah.
Wow, nailed it. Oh man. Well, I guess before we get into Black Rain, you were teeing up to me before we were recording that you have a movie that you just recently went and saw that you want to talk about for our Lil Movie segment. So what is it?
I did just go see a movie. I'm glad you came back to this as quick as you did, because I'm pretty sure I was going to forget if you didn't come back.
Oh wow. I really wanted to talk about it. I want to hear what you went and saw. Because sometimes you just go see what the fuck ever. Like, you just recently told me that you saw Amsterdam in a movie theater, and I'm like, I think you might be the only person in like the Metro Detroit area who did that.
Well, I wasn't the only person in the theater. I went with 2 other people.
Oh, you drug people to see Amsterdam?
Yeah, I tricked people. I was like, listen to this cast.
Thank you for teeing that up for me. As long as it isn't David O. Russell. I'm never covering David O. Russell.
No.
As long as it isn't David O. Russell.
Quickly got his axe out.
Period.
No, I like David O. Russell. I know he's an asshole in real life.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit and makes bad movies, so why would we cover him?
Ooh, hot take. Anyway, that's not the movie I went and saw over the weekend. I went and saw the conclusion of the trilogy, Halloween, David Gordon Green, Dan McBride. Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
This is the last one.
Yeah, you're a big Halloween head.
Well, I'm a big slasher horror.
You're just like a big horror head.
Yeah, of course. Okay. If it's got horror on it, I'm probably going to see it.
Okay.
Yeah, not a fan.
You didn't like this one?
I did not.
Weird.
No, I did not.
Did you like the last one? I feel like no one liked the last one either.
No, I didn't. I like this one even less.
Weird. Maybe people should stop making these fucking movies, huh?
As a matter of fact, I'm not going to hate on it too much. I'm just going to say it felt
go for it.
It felt very disjointed. All 3 of them. I got very new sequel trilogy of Star Wars. How that was very disjointed. Yeah. I just felt like off the success of the first one. First one was great. 2018. Sure. This one was so off the rails that it made me appreciate Halloween Kills, the second one, a little bit more. Oh, so you liked it
worse than Halloween? Like, this is the worst one?
Yes, they went descending.
Yeah,
in order. Yeah, not a fan. It might be polarizing, might grow on me in time. I think this might be a film that you might appreciate a little more with time. But for me, no. I mean, it's just I'm there, especially near the first like hour. I was telling myself, like, don't walk out.
Really? That bad?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. I did. Towards the end, there were some things that I did like, small things here and there that boosted a little bit. But for the most part, no. I'm sorry, Jamie Lee. But your year will be for everything, everywhere, all at once.
Oh,
Not
I think she knows that. She's like the one. She's out
she
there
does. But
campaigning for
this
that movie.
is,
But yeah,
she put out a very heartfelt message about her last name.
yeah,
And I've always been a fan of her, but whatever. She's
yeah,
the
that's fine.
scream queen.
Evil
But
dies tonight, and so does the Halloween franchise for the next what 2 or 3 years before they reboot it again.
no, I think this will be it.
No, you're silly. Of course, this is not
Listen,
going to be
when's the
it.
last time we got a Freddy? It was so bad, it was done. We're not
I
getting
I
Mr.
guarantee you,
Krueger's.
within the next 3 years, we're going to get like fucking David Gordon Green is going to reboot and he's going to call it like A Nightmare on Elm Street (parentheses 2025) and just like ignore all the other sequels. He's going to do the same
Stop.
because he's doing it for The
No.
Exorcist.
Is he
So
doing it for The
yeah, he's
Exorcist?
doing a fucking Exorcist trilogy. Like, homeboy, leave it alone. What are
No,
you gonna
I'm
do? You're
I'm
gonna
I'm
go and
kind of on board.
no.
Just at
This
least
is
for
silly.
one.
These
No,
fucking
because one of them it will be good, and I'm on board for that
no, it
one.
won't.
I
This is
don't know
my
which one it will be.
no. This is my whole
I'll
problem.
probably be able to tell real quick
These
based on
fucking
Halloween Ends.
new blood motherfuckers who are like, oh yeah, I can ignore all of these other sequels and make a direct sequel to an unending masterpiece, and it'll be worth it. And it's like, bitch, sit down. Like, I don't think you have any like, especially him. Like, he's fine. He's just like a guy, right? Like, he's just like a journeyman director who's made like some stuff, and like all of a sudden Hollywood is like, you're the horror guy now. I don't get it.
No,
I don't
I mean
fucking get it.
well,
Don't make a
Hollywood's just
sequel to The Exorcist. You
trying to.
fucking fool.
I get it. I totally get it.
It's just I don't know. I just feel like that is a hopeless task.
With Halloween, it's a little different too because there's four freaking timelines.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with that, with the whole idea of Halloween having 100 timelines either. But like,
Right. I mean, they threw continuity out the window a
the
long
first
time
one is a
ago.
masterpiece. So like,
It
great.
is.
Now there's all these other ones that like are clearly just for paychecks.
No. Out of all of them, the 2018 one is
I
pretty
mean,
damn
sure,
good.
sure.
No, I mean
Whatever.
they had 40 years to be like, okay, to perfect the
No,
formula.
they
And they
didn't.
tried.
No, they
They
did not. They
tried
didn't
a
spend
lot of
40 years.
times.
No, they didn't. Whatever. Can I talk about the movie that I want to talk about today? It's related to the movie that we are covering today.
Okay, so 80s.
No,
No
no,
action. Oh no. All right.
no.
Well,
You want to keep trying?
not. I'm done.
All right. Today we're talking about Black Rain, which
Yes.
stars
Michael
a.
Douglas,
That's true. Who else?
Andy Garcia.
Okay, but who else?
Okay, you got me on that. I got his name.
Ken Takakura, who is
Takakura.
a Japanese actor who basically, I mean, I don't know who do you equate him to? He's been in like thousands of Japanese movies. He's like an icon over there, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's got the face like of I don't know. I've seen him in a gazillion things, and I've
Yeah.
never put a name to him.
So
But
Ken Takakura fucking rules. And the movie I want to talk about today is, I want to say it might be his final performance because he died in 2014. Let me double check this. It's his second to last performance. This movie came out in 2005. It is a Chinese movie called Riding Alone for Thousands of Miles.
okay.
And it's by a director that we could ostensibly cover, but it's a pretty big filmography. Zhang Yimou, who directed movies like Hero and House of Flying Daggers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in 2005, he made this really small drama called Riding Alone for Thousands of Miles, which is about a old man played by Ken Takakura who finds out that his estranged son is dying, and he goes to mainland China to try and record a like folk opera to like bring to his son before he dies. And it's very touching. And the entire movie is Ken Takakura just putting on a fucking masterclass of like repressed male emotion. It's so goddamn good. It's like one of the best performances of that decade.
It sounds really good.
It's very, very good. It's kind of sad, but like
2005?
2005, yeah. It's kind of sad, but like the character that he's playing never like has a breakdown where he's like, oh, my son is dying. Like, it never gets that like sentimental. It's very like bottled up and like quiet. It's fucking great. It's a great.
So the whole movie, it's just like pushed to the edge, and you want
you
it
don't
to
ever
explode,
like,
and he never explodes.
Like, he never explodes. Like,
that might kill me.
Oh, it's great. He never cries throughout the whole movie, even though like he has all these scenes where you can hear his like inner monologue and he's just talking about how profoundly sad he is. And he never cries.
Well,
it's not like it's not like fucking Casino where he like narrates the whole movie.
Okay.
Like, but like every now and then it will just sort of like cut to his like inner thoughts. But there's this great scene where he's like making a video to send to the jail so he could get this opera singer out to do this performance, and he like holds up a gratitude flag that's like, he's like, please help me, and you can hear him crying behind the flag, but once he drops it, he's like composed himself because he doesn't let people see him cry.
Oh shit.
Oh, it's fucking great. It's such a good movie. Riding Alone for Thousands of Miles rules, and Ken Takakura was a legend, and we should talk about it more today when we talk about Black Rain.
Oh, it piqued my interest. Sounds like I would be doing all the crying for him.
Oh, I cried. Oh yeah.
Oh, if it got you going, then I would probably be a puddle.
I will say I have weak spots with movies. One of my weak spots is just animation. Like, animation can make me cry.
Okay.
At the drop of a hat. Like, it doesn't take much for like Onward, which was a boring fucking fantasy slog by Pixar. At the end of that, I was crying and I was like mad about it. I was like, these fuckers got me, really? This movie sucks, and I'm still crying. And the other thing,
those are cheap tears.
They're always, yeah, easy. The other thing that usually gets me is like father-son shit. Like, that usually can come.
Oh yeah, no, that's a big one.
That whole movie is just like a father trying to like reconcile his lost relationship with his son. And anyways, we're done talking about that. Because who knows, maybe we'll talk about Zhang Yimou one day. That'd be fun.
Dogs, obviously. I can't watch dogs. Anything.
Dogs are tough. Yeah. Did you see Dog?
Absolutely not.
Great
Even
movie.
though I know it has on the poster, this dog does not die.
Yeah, like they basically reassure you, like, we're not going to kill the dog in this one. Good movie.
That actually made me want to see it a little bit.
It's good. It's good. Channing Tatum, good. Yeah. We love him.
Well, we're not talking about that. Today we're talking about Black Rain.
Black Rain. Let's get into it.
A New York City cop on the trail of a killer. From the back alleys of Manhattan.
Well, our victims are certainly Yakuza.
To the streets of Japan.
Because of your negligence, a man we've wanted for a long time has been lost.
Look, we'll take some of the heat for this, but we're not taking the rap.
You see, there's a war going on here between Sato and an old-time boss named Sugai. And they don't take prisoners.
Let's talk about it.
All right, 1989. We're coming
off
our
first movie with Michael Douglas.
Is it really? I guess what else would it be?
Right.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize that.
How do you like Michael Douglas?
I fucking love Michael Douglas.
Okay, I love Michael Douglas.
I'm a big Michael Douglas fan. I love that he can be the world's dirtiest, scummy cocaine like monster, and also like he can just be sort of like, I don't know, like he could do the American president too, you know, where he's just.
That's what I'm saying. You always you when you think of Michael Douglas, you go douchey, slimy, scumbag.
Basic Instinct, Fatal Attraction.
See, no, I feel like American President is kind of where I was.
I love him in American President.
He's so, and there's nothing slimy about that. That's the opposite. That's
hashtag my president.
Absolutely, all day, every day.
Yeah,
he'd still be in office if it was up to me.
We would change the rules.
Absolutely.
He could serve 8 terms.
Yeah, but I also saw Falling Down really young. Love that.
Okay.
He was a fucking badass in the Ghost in the Darkness.
I've never seen that one.
I always talk about. So yeah, I know wasn't he executive producer on one of my all-time favorite movies, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Well, yeah, he won an Oscar for
it.
So I mean, that was his thing. Is, you know, he was a kind of a TV guy, and obviously, like a nepotism baby. His father being Kirk Douglas,
right?
So it took him a while to sort of translate into being a leading man. People didn't really take him seriously, so he ended up doing a lot of producing in his early career. And I feel like he did some TV work too.
Bite his teeth or earn his chops or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, he had that run with like Disclosure. You know, obviously Basic Instinct. You know, just these. He was kind of like the 90s. I don't know. He was the
80s, 90s.
Yeah, 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I mean, we could even, honestly, since this is our first Michael Douglas, and like, I do love him, and just talking about his movies, we could talk about like his whole filmography you want.
Well, off the top of my head, I just wanted to make it, for me, I think he's top 5 of all time.
What? Okay, that's crazy.
Not greatest, not great. I always
just one of your top 5 guys.
Favorites.
You know what? That makes sense for you. That, like, I feel like that fits in your vibe. That he's that makes sense.
Yeah, I always maybe a little douchey, you know.
Yes, I mean, not you.
Well, no, it's fine.
It's fine, folks. He knows himself.
All right. You gotta love yourself.
It's true. So you feel at one with him, huh? You feel
I just think he's the man. I always have. And this, we're gonna get into his performance here. It's not. I don't think his performance is peak Douglas. This is not peak Douglas.
This is not peak Douglas.
Okay,
it's good. It's arresting.
It's solid Douglas.
You watch him and you're like, I want to keep watching. I guess
Yeah.
I just like his acting career is kind of funny because like you said, like he was winning producing Oscars and shit long before he became a movie star, which is crazy because his father was like one of the biggest movie stars of all time. So you would think it would be an easy path for him. But I think the first time he was a leading man, I feel like that was in like a hit movie that people respected and like got his acting career going was Romancing the Stone.
That's with Kathleen Turner.
Kathleen Turner, yep. Yeah, that was,
I didn't see that one, but
that's a fun movie.
That's what everyone always usually when that goes hand in hand when you say Michael Douglas. That
Romancing the Stone.
Yeah,
it's a good movie. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's Robert Zemeckis like in the early '80s when he actually knew what he was doing.
You don't like him?
No, but like I'll give him like 1979 to 1989. I'll give him that much.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but Romancing the Stone, his first like real thing, and then after that he's Fatal Attraction, Wall Street, this, War of the Roses, Basic Instinct, Falling Down, like you said.
When Wall Street might be up there when you say Michael Douglas.
That's a big one.
Greed is Good.
That's a big one.
Gordon Gekko. Yeah,
I mean that's the one he won his Oscar for, right?
That's when you think of slimy Michael Douglas. There is no slimier than Gordon Gekko.
Basic Instinct is maybe slimy.
Ooh, he's a dirtball there.
He's rough in that one. I mean, he's great in that one, but like that's woof,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's like you said, kind of throughout the 80s and 90s, he was a pretty big fucking deal.
Yeah, and I happen to think those are two of the best decades. So
I mean, yeah, you were alive during them, so that makes sense. Yeah, he did win his. Sorry, I was just double checking. He did win his Oscar for. Interesting. He won his Oscar for Wall Street, which also that movie got nominated for Best Foreign Language Film from the Japanese Academy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a little back and forth with him in Japan.
Nice.
Yeah. So all right. So let's talk. All right, Black Rain. Right? We're talking Black Rain.
Yeah. In this movie, Michael Douglas plays Nick Conklin.
Yep.
Nick.
He plays bad cop. He plays renegade cop who plays by his own rules.
Yeah, the manly hero that can't catch a break type thing. There's a lot of print by numbers.
Okay, but this is the first thing I want to talk about is how fucking 80s this goddamn movie is. Like we talked about how Someone to Watch Over Me was like very heavily an 80s movie.
Sure.
Good Lord. This thing
doubles down on that big time.
Well, it's 1989. It is the end of the decade. So it is like the culmination. You know what I mean? It's
this
like
is everything.
The 80s have all, oh my God. Like this thing, I think this movie's okay. I think it's a decent movie.
Well, he also, let's finish this cast. It's not a big cast. Andy Garcia.
Okay.
Do you like Andy Garcia?
I never got it. Like, sure.
I think I like him. Me too. I feel the same way kind of about him.
He's fine.
This is one of his better roles for me. He plays his partner cop, Charlie Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
And they're early on, it's a very buddy cop vibe.
Yeah. I thought it took me a minute to realize that they were both cops because like the way that Garcia is always dressed, I thought that he was like the DA or something, and like I thought that he was like close with like this lawyer, but then they're
he hops on the back of his bike like in the opening.
Well, yeah,
like,
I know, right? Like,
yeah, it's not so.
I just thought they were boys. I don't know. I didn't realize that he was also a cop.
All right. Well, it opens up first.
No. We're going to talk about the cast because you made me talk about the cast. So
yeah,
we'll round this out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Andy Garcia plays his partner, I guess. Yeah, right. They're partners, right? Yeah, sure.
Absolutely, partner Charlie.
Okay. And who else we got here? So we already talked about Ken Takakura in the intro.
We did.
Fucking legend.
They meet him later on when their case takes them over to Japan.
Yeah, he's the Japanese cop who they have to work with.
Yeah, for a while it's like a little third wheel situation. I'm always looking, because buddy cop movies, there's a dime a dozen. This
isn't really a buddy cop movie though.
Not at all.
No.
It's actually a fresh little take on it.
It feels like it's
a little switcheroo.
It feels like it's maybe the blueprint for like what Rush Hour ends up being, but only like sort of like there's stuff in this that you're like, okay, there's the culture clash stuff and fish out of water stuff.
Sure.
But obviously Rush Hour takes that to like, the nth degree or whatever.
Yep.
Okay, so Ken Takakura, legend. Kate Capshaw, who plays woman.
Joyce.
Kate Capshaw plays woman who he meets.
Sure.
Okay. Thoughts on Kate Capshaw?
What I didn't.
I have a really mean thing to say about her.
Oh, let her rip.
I have no real feelings about Kate Capshaw. I actually think she's kind of good in this movie. She's sort of like mysterious and like I kind of dig her vibe.
Yeah, I have no problems with her.
And I was looking her up because like, what do I know her from? I can't remember. She plays Willie Scott in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which is one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a movie. Which is only half her fault. Because I think the character is terrible too.
Okay.
Do you remember this character?
No.
She's the Jar Jar Binks of the Indiana Jones.
Oh.
She fucking is like this lounge singer that Indiana keeps like bumping into in the second movie. And she's just a nightmare of a character. Like she's truly like
annoying.
You just want her to fall off a cliff and like just like out of the movie forever.
So that's a little hidden beef with that.
I think so. I was watching the movie and I was like, why is she bothering me? Even though I'm kind of into it. Like, what's the problem here? And then I looked at it, I was like, oh, right. Because I've only seen Temple of Doom once. I've actually only seen all of the Indiana Jones movies once. But like, I remember very vividly hating her. And like, just like me and my girlfriend watching that movie and me being like, this character's the fucking worst. She's so annoying. Get her out of here. Indiana Jones trying to take down like Satanists or whatever. And she's just like, slipping on banana peels or whatever the fuck. Like, oh, she's the worst. I'm sorry.
That Spielberg and Lucas has to have a little cartoon in there.
Yeah, but like they've done it better.
Sure.
Oh boy, I don't like Temple of Doom. That movie bums me out. I don't think it's very good. But I do like Short Round. Short Round's a fucking legend. Okay, so I mean, aside from that, like most of the cast is a lot of like Japanese actors who I like am unfamiliar with.
Yeah, I don't want to get his name wrong, but the villain, Yusuke Matsuda. He died shortly after this film of cancer.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and I just wanted, R.I.P.
That's kind of a bummer.
You do get a real brief cameo by Luis Guzman. Yeah, I was like, hey, wow, I didn't know it was this kind of movie. But then you never see him again. Yeah,
and then you got that quick sort of interview scene with Stephen Root and Richard Rail.
Stephen Root. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, there's some guys who like sort of pop up for one scene in this movie, and you're like, hey,
there he is. Right off the bat, this movie opens epic. It's Hans Zimmer,
right? Oh yeah, this is the first Hans Zimmer collaboration.
And I'm not one to normally talk about scores or soundtracks. I'm just not a big music guy, This slaps.
Oh, you liked it?
This is insane, Hans Zimmer. I've had this on repeat since I watched this movie. I'm listening to it at work. I sent it to you at one point.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you were like banging it so hard.
Oh, it's hard, real hard.
I like barely remember anything from it.
Away by this Hans Zimmer. Yeah, so
very 80s again.
It's everything for me. It's just it's epic in all the right ways. At certain points, the score dips down, and I'm like, "Oh, Charlie, something bad just happened." Spoiler alert.
We'll get to Charlie's.
Spoiler alert, folks. If you're still listening, I mean, you've been listening long enough.
God,
we
Charlie.
can say R.I.P. Charlie.
We'll get to that scene because that's one of the craziest things this movie does.
It's crazy.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, and then who else we got behind the scenes is fucking Jan de Bont. Doing the cinematography for this movie, who went on to direct fucking Speed and Twister and like big action.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a pretty freaking good looking like 80s movie, which is
that's the difference between there's probably a gazillion cop 80 movies like this. This one is head and shoulders better looking than the rest, in my opinion.
Interesting. Okay,
and we'll get into that. There's a couple frames in particular where you're just like, holy shit,
Got it. Yeah, I mean, all shot on mostly like on location in Osaka. Yeah, so like this thing looks good just from a production design standpoint because the shit looks real. Like,
I did have a production. I guess Ridley Scott said he'll never make another film ever in Japan. I think, and I quote, in this fucking place.
That sounds like him.
because it was a hell of a shoot and a lot of
well, yeah, I know there's a lot of red tape.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, and like I was reading from that book of mine that I got on him, like about the audition process in Japan, which is, they went and auditioned a bunch of Japanese actors, which Japanese actors don't do that. Like they don't do like formal auditions. So it was a very weird, like uncomfortable process for everyone, because like all these Japanese actors were showing up with their agents and being like, wait, I'm doing what? I have to audition for you? Like, no, I don't do that. So it's just a weird situation, I'm sure. Just like, I mean, just like the movie itself, it's, the making of the movie was a lot of culture clash as well, which is, kind of adds a little bit to the tension, maybe.
Sure.
Okay, so I want to talk about how 80s this movie is, and how I think that the movie's okay, but it could be awesome if it weren't an 80s movie.
Okay, well,
Okay.
let it rip.
Well, all right. I think this movie's pretty good. Like, for an 80s cop movie, like, I don't really expect much more.
Sure.
I'm not expecting this to be Gladiator.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that sort of like kind of stuck up a little bit for me, like a sore thumb, was this awesome scene near the end with like the main gangster guy, and he's talking to Michael Douglas about how like valiant World War II American soldiers were.
The Black Rain speech.
The Black Rain speech is so good, and sort of like it gets me excited about like the promise of what this movie could have done, which is like, you could have really made a movie about the weird relationship between Japan and America after the bomb was dropped, and the weird ways that like Japan has sort of like assimilated our pop culture, and we have like fallen behind them in terms of like industry. And just like, again, it could have been a lot more if this movie weren't so fucking obsessed with like fog machines and like synth shit, like, and like Michael Douglas running around in a leather jacket on a motorcycle. Like, it's not a very focused movie on like actual issues, even though there's that awesome Black Rain speech. Do you want to break that down?
I didn't really care for the Black Rain speech.
Loved it.
When he finally said Black Rain, I was like, oh, there it is. Title, like I was.
That didn't stir anything up in you, like, oh man, they made the rain black. That's what that means. Like,
no. What stirred up more in me is when
Michael Douglas put his sunglasses on and got on his fucking motocross bike.
No, if anything, I wanted to say, because there's 3 different scenes with him on a bike. Is this like a thriller bike subgenre?
Is this a motorcycle movie?
Yeah, yes, actually.
Is it like Easy Rider?
Even the climactic scene takes place on bikes.
That shit was so lame, because like the movie opens up with him doing like, he's street racing on his fucking bike.
The movie opens up with Greg Abbott's "I'll Be Holding On" over a sunset, him with the shades riding over the bridge.
This is a litmus test between just showing what you and I think is cool.
Oh yeah, and I'm just like,
I'm immediately rolling my eyes like, this fucking shit. And then of course the end of the movie is like, remember when we showed you that he could ride a motorcycle? Now he's gonna get on a motorcycle and he's gonna win. And you're like, all right, come on.
There's a middle motorcycle chase scene in there too.
Yeah,
but
it's so funny.
No, I'm not gonna lie. As it's coming out, I'm like, oh god, here we go. And I'm like, I know what I'm sitting down. I know what I'm in getting ready for.
You've seen the poster for this movie,
right? And like, I know the decade. I know the title. The title just screams like. That's the thing. The vibe I got from this movie is Ridley swung as hard as he possibly could. He's like, after someone. The last one, someone to fall asleep to, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah, that's probably right.
I just felt like, no, he was like, no, I'm gonna actually try to make like an act like I just feel like he swung. He's like, no, I'm gonna go. I didn't get Michael Douglas for the last movie. I'm gonna go get my A tier guy for this one. I'm gonna.
Well, I think Douglas produced this. I think this came from Douglas. I think he was the one who was
Douglas took this to Ridley.
He produced this movie. Yeah. I think he wasn't originally going to star in it. And then he ended up getting Ridley attached. And then he was like, I'll star in it, whatever. So this was actually a Michael Douglas project from the get-go. Cause he actually, in that book I was reading, he actually talked about wanting to make a movie about like the kind of interesting culture between America and Japan. And
well, that makes total sense, because you get alpha male, like, big time. And I feel if this is his baby, he's like, no, I want to be
I'm going to play the big dick swinging, like, yeah. So all right, um, we should probably talk about Michael Douglas's character because he's kind of the whole problem. Not problem. He's like the conflict of the movie. Like his character is in itself like
he's deep. He's deep. He's got a lot going on, you know.
He's deep.
Yeah, before this movie even starts, he's been dealing with the IA coming for him. Even before that, he had to take money to support his kids and his wife. You know, there's been a lot going on with this guy. You know, we're meeting him. He's earning a little bit of money with this street race right off the bat. Opening scene. It's a fair race, by the way. It's a clean race, even though
I think it's a clean race. He was a better rider.
The guy bitches a little bit. He's throwing a fit. Guess what? He made an amazing jump and stole the race.
Sorry, dude. You need to fucking be better about staying on your bike or whatever.
Take a hike, pal.
I agree with you.
Don't come across Nick like that. Then what? We go to his apartment. We get this overlooking shot over the bridge. It's the sun's. This is money shot number one. It's very brief, but we're seeing his lifestyle, right? Or do we meet Charlie at this point?
I don't remember like some of the earlier like shit. I mean, like what I took away from the beginning of the movie is like, okay, Nick is a kind of shady but not crooked cop.
We don't know if he's dirty in the beginning. He has a meeting with the IA.
Yeah, and it's like the meeting is so like typical, like these
Get
fucking
off my
suits,
back.
These fucking suits don't know what they're talking about. And you know, he like I don't know, he throws a fit, and like you're just like, dude, if you were just fucking calm for 5 seconds and weren't strung out, like you probably wouldn't have to deal with these people. But yeah, I mean, the whole intro in this movie is sort of like trying to set it up, like, is this guy crooked or not, and is it moral if he's taking money from the cops, whatever.
But at the same time,
or from the criminals, rather.
Yeah. When we meet Charlie, he says right out the bat, with all your commendations. So he's he's highly decorated. This is borderline of, big dick.
Yeah, swinging. Of course. He has to be a hero.
Yeah. So he's a hero with a little bit of taint, you know. Yeah. So it's pretty much print by numbers. We're getting an alpha male cop, a little bit of, he may have done some dirty stuff. But it's
very vague about if he did or didn't. Like it doesn't really
right, but it's not. But it seems whether he's a great cop. Based on
I don't think he's a great. I think he's not a great cop. But
you think he's been lying to Charlie. Charlie says right off the bat, he's like, with all your commendations, that means he's decorated. That means I hear that line, I'm thinking, oh, he's a badass. He's a great cop.
Oh, I'm thinking that he's just sort of like a scumbag who like probably beats up minorities or something.
Wow.
But like the movie doesn't really ever like, all it wants you to know about him is like he's a little morally gray, and he thinks it's okay that other people sometimes skim off the top to feed their families or whatever. It's not saying explicitly that he's ever done it, but like
not until later on when
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, in the setup of the movie.
I'm thinking he's a fucking killer. He's a super cop borderline. He's one of these 80s super cops.
The only super cop is fucking Al Pacino in Serpico. That's the only super cop that's ever existed.
What about Jackie Chan in Super Cop?
Okay, you know what? You've won me over. There's 2 super cops. Yeah, that was great. Good old super cop. So all right, so let's get into the plot a little bit here.
I mean, it doesn't take long.
Because there's
my next note is this escalated quickly in regarding the bar scene right after the IA scene. We're getting the race, meeting Charlie on the way to IA, bar scene, bam.
Then we're into
it. Hits the fan.
So the whole plot of this movie is like there's a Yakuza member in New York who gets into some altercation with some other Yakuza member in New York, right?
I don't. It happens so quick.
Yeah, the politics of like what happens right away is sort of fuzzy, but like all you need to know is Nick and Charlie were in this bar, and a Yakuza shootout happened, and Nick and Charlie went and arrested the Yakuza like general.
Yeah, a big chase scene. We can't underestimate this. Oh, it goes in the meat locker.
I was gonna say the meat locker part of it was really good.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of prolonged. I'm like, damn, this is going on for just like I thought he was going to escape, but no, super cop Nick.
Oh, you are way more into this movie than I.
I may have watched it a few times. Also,
what did you?
Yeah.
You watched it more than once?
Like 4 times.
You watched this movie 4 times?
I spam watched it. I don't know why.
Oh my God. Okay. You're going to probably, I watched it once 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And I was like, okay, sure. Next.
No, I totally get why you would do that. I can't explain it. I can't explain it.
Wow, you were hooked on Black Rain.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what with my rating at the end.
4 times. I'm assuming this movie's gonna be pretty hard. So they catch this Yakuza guy, and immediately
Saito,
something like that. I don't remember. I'm gonna be referring to most of these people by their actor names.
I think it's Saito.
That sounds right, because they were saying like Saito and like whatever.
Saito,
they catch him,
and then Shugai was the elder.
He was like the big guy, the big boss.
Yeah.
And then was it Masamoto? Is Ken Takakura?
Babe.
Masa.
Come on, babe.
Yeah, everyone calls him babe.
Early on in this movie, they're babe heavy. I mean,
well, Garcia and Douglas are calling each other babe all the time, which I'm like, that's kind of cute.
You get like 10 babes in the first couple scenes.
Garcia is spamming the babe. He's also spamming the I'm Andy Garcia thing where he's like, hey babe, like he's like he's
okay.
he's a lot. He's a lot in this movie. But Japan immediately is like, no, that's our fucking prisoner. You're gonna send him to Japan. We're extraditing him so we can try him here for his crimes, right?
Yeah, Douglas says they can have him in about 10 to 20.
No, he says 20 years after serving, whatever. And obviously it doesn't go his way. And Garcia and Douglas are charged with escorting this Yakuza member back to Japan on the flight.
Yep.
So they land in Japan.
Well, you get a real cool scene in this.
I'm sorry. I don't have this movie memorized like you, so I'm sorry I'm jumping around.
Well, no, because this is the very first.
This isn't my favorite movie of all time, like it is yours.
I'm not. This is the earliest example where I can actually this is 1989.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little conversation about being a dirty cop, a bad cop, and Saito kind of side eyes Douglas and sips tea. And I'm just like, is this the earliest example of like a sips tea meme? You know?
This is Saito's like, ooh, this gossip is good.
Well, just like, I don't that's the vibe. I'm like, whoa, that's weird.
And then Douglas pulls the real
him. Yeah.
No, he doesn't elbow him. He cold clocks him. He does the stretch, like, ooh, I'm just gonna stretch, and he fully cold clocks him with his fist, like hard.
Yeah, being a dirty cop. Just another dirty cop example.
So they land in Japan. The authorities meet them at the plane, and they're like, all right, thanks for escorting him here. We'll take him. Great. And then they kind of go away. And then
or they like show some paperwork.
Yeah, they show the paperwork, whatever. And then they
can't read it because it's in Japanese.
They're American. They can't read the paperwork. It doesn't matter what the paperwork says. And they go to get off the plane. And then another group of officials are like, hey, you got the prisoner? And immediately you're like, oh, shit. They got duped by the Yakuza. Saito's back in fucking Yakuza hands. And now this is kind of where I'm like, okay, this is actually some like pretty smart like writing. Why the fuck would Michael Douglas stay in this situation, right? Like you would be like, all right, aside from the fact that he's like, oh, I'm a fucking honorable cop, which he's not. Why else would he do this, right?
He's got a lot of commendations. He's a great cop.
Piece of shit. He says like, I'm gonna stay because they already think I'm dirty. Like the IA thinks I'm dirty. They're gonna think that the Yakuza paid me off to give them Saito back, so I have to stay and finish this.
Bingo.
Or else if I go back, they're gonna get my ass.
When Nick realizes that he gave Saito back, you get a real good son of a bitch.
That's great. I do love the son of a bitch, because you just immediately like. Yeah. You know that they got his ass. That's great.
Yeah, it's fun. That's fun little trickery by the criminals in this film.
So then obviously Garcia and Douglas are tasked with teaming up with the Japanese police force to track down Saito and bring him back into custody. That's the whole.
I love that Charlie and Nick kind of right off the bat get right at the beginning get a lot of leeway. They like kind of set up shop, like get their own desks. That's how you can tell the respect for these American officers, and probably that they're badass cops. So
interesting. I read it a totally different way, which is the Japanese police force in this movie is hyper organized and like they're like a machine. they don't have time for fucking renegade cops from America. So they're just like, yeah, we'll put him in the corner. Like he can answer calls over there or whatever. Like they don't want him coming along on like raids with them. They are way more like I don't know, efficient than he is.
After the very first time, I mean, they're allowed to go. Everything's fine the first time they go and they're looking for questioning. But Nick has to headbutt one of the criminals, which that gets them like on disciplinary action. Like that's
because he's a badass.
Well, he got didn't he steal the money here too?
Yeah, this is the scene where he steals the money and you're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And then like, of course, he's like, I was actually stealing it so I could burn it to prove that it's counterfeit. And you're like, okay, great.
Yeah, because you got to expedite the process. You got to get shit done. Like Nick doesn't have time to wait for any of this nonsense. You know,
this is my whole problem with this movie is I'm like admiring the Japanese police force and like how efficient and like organized they are. And the ultimate lesson that this movie gives is like, no, one rogue cop will fucking upend the system and get the job fucking done, baby. And it sucks. I don't like that at all.
Well, no, you might not like it, but sometimes Nick has to step up.
I think Masamata is cool as fuck. The Japanese cop that they get like tasked with, you know, he gets tasked with babysitting them essentially, right?
Yeah.
I think he's cool as fuck. He's like very calm,
by the book,
very by the book, and very honorable. Like he does all this stuff with like a lot of integrity.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about him.
That's the whole Japanese police.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And then like I like the scene of him and Andy Garcia like where he kind of cuts loose a little bit and does some karaoke.
We'll get to that. Yeah, that's
good.
A lot of fun.
I'm sorry, we're not there yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can get there. Yeah, that's a good scene because they like I think at one point he's like, I like him, and the other guy's like, I like him.
Yeah.
You know, they're forging a relationship.
It's good.
It's friendly. It's a friendly scene. Meanwhile, while they're having fun and partying, who's getting down to business? Who's working on the case? Nick is. He's meeting suspects. He's talking to Joyce, the blonde lady with a little injury. She's got a lot of street savvy. She's got a lot of knowledge.
She's interesting, but doesn't really have a lot of character. Like she's like, oh yeah, I came here 7 years ago, and you're like, well, what? Why? And she's like, so I could be the white lady in this movie. I don't know. Like, you don't really know why she's there. Or like, I don't know. She's just kind of there, right?
The only thing I really felt was unnecessary was there's a kiss between them.
So bad. It's so bad.
I'm like, I didn't get that.
They barely spoke 10 words to each other the whole movie. And it's like, oh, the two white people need to kiss.
Yeah, I didn't really see the attraction. It just felt really tagged on. Not necessary.
Not necessary.
Yeah. So that's all we really need to say about her character. She comes back like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, just for being like an information hub, right? Like he just gets more info out of her.
Real easy plot device where Nick can go to progress the story.
One of the things I will say about this movie that I do appreciate is it doesn't really rely on any kind of typical racism that you would find in these kind of movies, especially of the era. Like this movie's not very heavy on like the Rush Hour shit where it's like, you know, Chris Tucker being like, oh, ching ching chong or whatever, you know, like
right.
There's none of that shit in this movie aside from like little tiny things that are more cultural than they are like racist. You know, the chopsticks where he's like trying to figure out how to eat it, and he's
that's cultural. That's
all just like
excellent.
I was surprised that this movie wasn't as. I mean, like the racist thing about this movie is like, nope, the white man can get it done, and it's like, all right, sure we can. But of course, it's the fact that that's the most egregious thing in the movie is actually kind of impressive.
Absolutely,
for the 80s,
for that time, yeah. It's huge.
It does feel like Ridley Scott did sort of make this movie with a lot of respect for like the two different peoples in the movie. You know, like he's obviously making a movie about fucking white cops coming to fucking kick ass, but like he does not make a mockery of the Japanese police force or the Japanese people in general. Like they aren't foolish like they would be in other movies.
No, if anything, yeah, I would say that they fall into like maybe the Asian villain stereotype a little bit.
Sure, but like it's a movie about the Yakuza, so I guess I get that. But
right,
yeah, it's.
I do agree that there was a lot of respect both ways.
Surprising amount for the time, you know, like considered. And
Nick wouldn't have lived if it wasn't for Mas. So
no, he wouldn't have. Mas came and fucking had his ass at the end, which is cool. We love that.
Yep.
All right, so I want to talk about the death scene of Andy Garcia.
Well, it comes on the heels of that great bonding scene. That's the placement of the scene is pivotal here. Because they just all bonded. You know, you just had the karaoke scene.
Yeah.
it's you're riding a high right now as a viewer. You're like, oh, everything feels so good.
It does. Yeah. You're like, oh, cool. Moss is like opening up a little bit. Like it's nice. Yeah.
They're coming together. They're talking about being better partners, a little bit of lecturing going on. There's a little bit of animosity between Nick and Moss because there's the lack of trust at this point.
Sure.
But then this scene comes out of nowhere where they're walking down like a little enclosed shopping center type area.
Yeah.
Just badass. Japan scenery is just excellent throughout this entire movie.
It looks really good. Yeah.
And just one solo biker steals Andy Garcia's jacket. And at first they're joking, I love how it's
the
set
escalation
up
is good.
Yeah, I love how it's set up because they're joking at first. Everyone's laughing and no one's taking it serious. I love this.
Well, the line that Douglas has where like the guy spits on the coat or whatever, and Michael Douglas is like, hey man, don't make it fucking personal. Like it goes from like, all right, forget about it. It's just your coat to like, hey, what the fuck? Like it escalates quickly. It's cool.
And then it takes another step of escalation because they were just going to let the jacket go, but then Charlie realizes he has his passport in there and can't get back home.
And this guy lures him into a trap.
Right.
Charlie, you're being kind of an idiot. Like Michael Douglas is literally screaming like, hey dude, don't do that. And like, he takes off sort of.
A little bit of panic. I think there's a little bit of desperation. I think he thinks he can catch him because the biker's driving just slow enough.
Yeah.
It's a good lure. It's a good lure. It's set up good.
But basically, this all culminates in they lure him into this like parking garage and they close all the fucking gates so that Michael Douglas can't get in. And they start sort of teasing him and like, they're cutting him, here and there. And then one dude pulls out a full-on katana and rides towards him and beheads him.
That's Saito, right? That's the leader?
Yes,
or is that
it was Saito.
Guy?
Yes, Saito.
There's a moment
he like
where
looks back at Michael Douglas.
There's a moment before there's a realization on Nick's face when he realizes that the trap and he starts taking off running. By this point, he had been walking too long and Charlie's way ahead of him. Mm-hmm. But it's a real brief. I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good stuff, Douglas.
It's good. But yeah, Andy Garcia gets fucking decapitated in this movie, and it's absolutely insane.
So
you really just don't expect it to go there.
About Legend and about the unicorn horn being cut off and how I thought that was going to be like brutal.
You thought it was going to be like this.
This is what I thought it was going to be like. Charlie's head goes flying.
Oh my
and it's
God.
a very good fake head. It
is. And like of the time, it's they cut around it perfectly where they don't spend too much time showing you, but like just enough movement to where like you could feel the decapitation and you're like, Jesus.
Yes. I thought they
Yakuza guys. I thought they were going to pull an Uzi out and like shoot him.
Oh, I thought they were going to beat him to death with like chains. And
chains, sure, or switchblades, stuff like that.
I didn't think the machete. When I saw the blade come out, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, that's a long one. You could do a lot of damage with that. And
it's the way he said it. It's there's a shot where he's like following the knife on the ground where the
he drags it.
Love that shit. Money shot, dude.
Yeah, that's good.
Money.
Stuff.
Where in it you see Charlie in the foreground. I'm like, the foreground or the background? Background. The foreground's the close-up, idiot. Anyway,
so now Andy Garcia is dead, and him and Douglas and Masamada have another.
What's wrong, Nick?
You got that out of your system?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Michael Douglas and fucking Ken Tucker, Nick and Masa, right? That's their name.
Mas. He called Mas
okay. Babe. Nick and Mas Babe have like another bonding sequence where Mas is like, hey, like the people who are closest to you when they die, you get to keep something of theirs, and he kind of is like, no, you should go on with this tradition. And he gives him all of his belongings and his guns in there. So Michael Douglas is like, oh, I'm going to take my gun.
No. You're not setting this. This is
Jesus Christ. That's what happens.
This is my
Brent.
Black Rain. This is my You got hype over the Black Rain scene. He looks down and goes,
fine.
Are you sure I can take anything? And he takes his gun and you're just like, let's fucking go. They're mounting up. Charlie just, he rallies up Moss right now too.
Oh my God, is this your favorite movie of all time?
I'm just
number one.
Oh, that got me when he takes it. He's sure I can take anything. Grabs his gun, and it's like because the whole time earlier in the movie they make it known that American cops, there's civilians over here that can't have their guns. Yep. That's a big plot thing. So with him getting his gun back, it's like it's go time.
It is go time, and what happens next? Do they go straight into like raid mode?
Well, I know there is another scene where
there's kind of a lot. Like this movie, all right, I will say this movie's a little.
They have a dinner. They share a dinner.
Sure. This movie's kind of fucking long. Like, this easily could have been like an hour 40. There's like 20 minutes of just like, what are they doing now? They're just sort of like doing this again, or what, like a lot of like walking around, like scouting out stuff. And you're just like, you could cut this down a little bit. Cause like at this point, I'm ready to just talk about the final action scene. But I feel like there's a bunch of like fluff in the middle. Does he go back and talk to fucking Kate Capshaw again? Like,
well, no, because it's in order to get close to Saito, Nick has to go talk to Shugai, the other triad leader. He meets him at his golf course, finds out where he spends his frequents time in golfing. There's a cool scene where he's
right. The guy like, yeah, okay. So this is the Black Rain scene then.
Yeah, and then that becomes the Black Rain scene. He starts.
So the Black Rain scene's good. The Black Rain scene's good. I think it's fun. He basically makes a deal with like the actual Yakuza boss, because Saito is like an aspiring Yakuza boss.
I think at one point they say it's like 50 on 50. It's like split right down the middle with these one up and coming young hot shot.
Okay. So he makes a deal with the old traditional guy, and he's like, listen, man, you get me in close, I just need one shot and I can fucking take this guy off it'll be done. And
Shugai knows that his partner was killed. He's like, okay.
But this is again why I like this movie. Like in this moment, Shugai immediately calls this shit, because he's like, that guy killed my partner. And Shugai's like, yeah, right in front of you. I'm not impressed. Like, he's like immediately like, yeah, you fucking let your partner die right in front of you. I am not impressed with you. Why should I make a deal with you?
That's kind of badass.
And then he goes on to give this cool speech about how when he was young, like the American soldiers were like honorable, and now all America's good for is movies and music.
Yeah,
it's good. And then he gives a great speech where he's like, you made the rain black, which he's referring to, the Hiroshima and the ashes from the nuclear fallout and stuff.
Well, this is what I'm talking.
It's just a deep scar between America and Japan.
He's swinging. This is that swing. He's like, this is really like, okay, I got this movie lined out. Now I want to go for something big. I want to slip something, a deeper meaning to this.
Yeah,
movie.
But he kind of just puts it in there, and it doesn't really mean anything for the rest of the movie.
Right.
Like I kind of would love that movie if it were like, obviously this is an 80s cop movie first and foremost, right? Like,
yes.
More importantly than anything, it's an 80s cop movie. So they have to do 80s cop movie shit, which is fine. But if it wasn't an 80s cop movie, I would love to see a movie about like an American cop going to Japan and having to reckon with the weird, history between these two countries and this deep psychological scar that like the war had on them and whatever. Like, could be cool, but that's not what the movie's about. The movie's about fucking Nick Conklin putting on some sunglasses and vroom, vroom, vroom. Like, that's what the movie's about. So anyways, they make the deal, and Conklin goes with like a shotgun. They give him like a shotgun. I'm thinking they're going to give him a rifle, something he can hit at long distance.
Yeah.
It looks like they give him like a cannon or something.
I'm not, I'm kind of a gun dummy. I'm not
I don't know shit about guns, but that does not look like something you could hit at range.
Right. It looked close range.
Yeah.
That's a problem because he's trying to take him out at distance.
Right. Yeah. And like Nick's interesting just because like he's got a lot of confidence in himself, and like sometimes he pulls shit off, but like he's like, I just need one fucking shot and I'll get him. And it like, that's not what happens at all.
Yeah, he's kind of messy.
Yeah, he's a fucking mess. Yeah.
It's very little planning. He's all
he just goes in by himself.
Yeah, he's gung ho.
Thank God Masa shows up.
He was gonna take out all of them by himself. That was his plan. Probably was he gonna
idiot.
Was he gonna solid snake it and stealth his way in and take?
No, he had a shotgun.
Right.
What was his plan? But
you get a real cool another money shot here when they're having the meeting. They're in that warehouse, and it's very dark lit. Nick's like looking over, like he's spying on him.
Yeah.
Like
I just thought that in like that like steel mill or whatever.
Steel mill, yeah, it looked gorgeous. There's a few times there I'm just like, wow, holy shit, that looks
well. I mean,
beautiful.
I just recently watched. Me and my girlfriend watched Don't Look Now with Donald Sutherland, Julie Christie, horror movie from the 70s, and that whole movie is shot in Venice, and it just looks fucking incredible because you're like, oh right, like when you go and shoot a movie at an actual location with real things, it just automatically adds so much texture and like reality to your movie. And this movie totally benefits from that because like most of this shit was shot in Osaka or like in like the countryside of Japan, and it looks so good.
Well, 5 for 5 or 6 for 6 with Ridley Scott, whatever we're on here, for gorgeous looking movies. I
Ooh,
just
okay.
want
Can
to
you?
easily say that.
I'm gonna write down really quick. I want to write because I want to come back to that before we finish the episode. But I want to finish talking about the plot of this movie.
Yeah.
So there's a big action sequence that's a little bit hard to follow. People just start shooting at some point.
So
Is
yeah,
it that like Saito brings his boys undercover and they sort of like sneak in and
there's a whole middle part where he kills Saito and his boy escape, and he kills a guy on a motorcycle, and then he's getting banned from Japan. He's getting put on a plane, and Mas has
right,
and he sneaks off the plane, Solid Snake style.
Yep.
And then he meets Mas at his apartment, and then they and Mas is like, no, no more, or like his son is like, no.
And Mas is also like, dude, you got to get out of here, man.
Oh
like,
yeah, you've dishonored me. You've dishonored
which he did.
yourself.
Yeah.
You keep doing this dirty shit.
Yep.
You know, you're not getting, things just keep escalating. It's getting really bad. This is the low point of the movie. And that's when he goes and meets Shugai, and the final culmination, this final attack comes.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to really quickly talk about Shugai's voice, which is insane.
Awesome.
It's so insanely obviously like voice dubbed. Like the man who's on screen does not look like he could produce the sound that is like, you made the rain black. Like he like has this deep like narrator voice that doesn't match him at all, and it's very clearly like 80 yard over. It's just funny. It's funny.
It matches the Warlord. I was like, that's sweet. You don't like it?
No, it's fine. I mean, I was just like, sometimes these old movies have really obvious ADR shit.
That's true.
So okay, so then
I usually get kissed before I get fucked. Boom.
This is what I'm saying. The 80s.
Drop the mic.
I'm saying I usually get kissed before I get fucked.
It's like, actually a spin on a line I've used before, which is I usually or would you put lipstick on before you fuck me?
You've used that before when talking to the Yakuza.
Yes.
Classic Brent. So there's this big fucking shootout at this like old farmhouse, and like everyone dies. Yeah. And there's like tons of people die in this thing.
A lot of death. This is a Yakuza war.
This is really funny to be like, well, I guess I don't know. Like, how many people do you think Masa and Nick kill? You've seen the movie many more times than I have, so
I would say, Mas definitely unloads. You get a really cool slow motion, like 80s action. Like you see these two guys that Mas shoots where they're just like,
oh yeah.
Oh, it's
awesome.
And
like the gun's going off while he's holding it, like classic.
And like Mas is on his knees, and he's slow. It's just scream. I'm like, yeah, let's fucking go.
Okay, so this is just what I'm teeing up.
I would say, but I would say 30 combined.
Okay, it's a lot of death.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm teeing up is. The whole movie, Nick is a bastard, right?
He's 25 of that going to Mas.
All right. Let me fucking get to my point.
Yeah.
Nick is a bastard this whole movie, right? Oh, he's fucking dirty cop. Oh, he plays by his own rules, whatever, And he gets into this big ultimate fight with Saito at the end. And he basically, the fight ends with Nick holding him in like a headlock thing. And there's this big protruding piece of wood that looks like, oh, dude, he's about to fucking impale Saito on that wood. And they're both like,
they both look at it.
Yeah, for 45 full minutes. That's why this movie's so fucking long. Is this scene goes on so long where they're like, ooh, you gonna impale me? Oh, I don't know, I might impale you. And like they're just looking back and forth at each other and back at the spike, and it takes forever. And then there's a hard cut to them bringing him into the into the police department, which is like, you're supposed to be like, you know what, that's awesome. Like he did the right thing. He fucking brought the criminal to the Japanese police. But like after they've murdered dozens of people, it's like, why does this guy get to get out for fun? We don't care about any of those other like Japanese like mobsters who he just mowed down in like cold blood.
Well, no, I think they were shooting at him.
I mean, sure, self-defense, of course.
He had,
but it's just he goes out of his way to make sure to save Saito so he can clear his reputation.
You get really stupid, like cartoonish, like eyes from Saito too. At this point, too, I noticed that.
Yes,
it's like really dumb and overacting. But R.I.P. Sorry to that guy, but. Yeah, I hated that hard cut. I was like, this is stupid.
Oh, I like the hard cut.
No, I had no doubt that Nick was going to do the right thing because Nick's not a bad cop. He's done bad things. Okay. See, he's done bad things to get the job done.
I was fully ready for him to rock bottom this dude onto the fucking spike because he killed his best friend, and that's exactly the kind of movie this is. I like the hard cut. It was good.
Charlie wouldn't want him committing murder. No,
I'm pretty sure he would.
I didn't like that at all. I was like, oh, that's whatever.
We like this movie for very different reasons.
That's fine.
And then, yeah, I don't know. Like the movie wraps itself up really quickly. He kisses the girl, and then there's the nice scene at the end where, like, the whole Yakuza like criminal bit was they were counterfeiting, you know, and like one person had half of the plate to counterfeit, and the other person had the other half, and it gets lost in the shootout. And of course, Nick gives the 2 plates to Masa at the end, and
yeah, I feel like that scene in itself kind of just hit on the same mark we just hit on, because the hard cut is like, is Nick going to do the right thing or wrong thing? And then here we have, is Nick going to do the right thing or wrong thing? You know, it's just, it felt, I didn't like the ending really at all.
The first right thing or wrong thing is he going to murder this guy? No, he brings him into justice.
Right.
The second thing is he going to turn the money in? No, he gives it to his friend. Or is he turning it in? Okay, because like he kind of gives him a winky kind of thumbs up at the end, and I'm like, this. And like it also replays that speech where he's like, you know, if someone had these 2 plates, you know, and knew the right of people, they can make a lot of money. And they're like, wait, does he think Moss is gonna fucking like start taking money from criminals? Is that, because that's not at all in his character.
He's implying that he's gonna do it. That's what I got from it. And it's like, no, you're not. Like, stop. Right. And Moss is even looking at him like, oh no, you're so bad, Nick. And then he looks, and then he sees the plates, and he's like, it's like, I don't know. It just felt like, of course. It's one more thing for Ridley to go out on, like, he's the epic.
You know. Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever. Last thing I want to talk about with this movie is we're getting close to the halfway point of part 1 of Ridley Scott. We've only got a couple of movies left, and I want, you know, I came into this season trying to be sort of like this is a new experience for me, because like I'm not a very big Ridley Scott guy. Hadn't seen a lot of his movies. Most of these are new first watches for me. So I'm trying to learn about Ridley Scott and make it, you know, kind of come up with my own take on him. And I think I have a take right now, which is I think Ridley Scott is the biggest journeyman director of all time. I don't think he's got a lot of voice. Like, he's not a guy who like makes movies about things, you know, like how Chris Nolan makes movies about time and cerebral stuff. And, you know, Paul Thomas Anderson makes movies about like weird
dialogue.
Like, yeah, exactly. Sure. And like M. Night Shyamalan is a horror guy.
Tarantino's ultra violence, you know.
And like Ridley Scott is just like, he just seems to make movies because he was given scripts, and he's just bigger and better at doing that than most journeyman directors. Like, he's not an auteur, is he? Like, he doesn't really have like a signifying thing, except for that he's a brand.
At this moment, after Black Rain, I don't see an identity. I agree. I think he is.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to dig him for that.
I'm riding with him. I'm going for the ride.
Yeah.
Because I think this was a step up from Someone to Watch Over Me.
I mean, yeah, me like taking an Instagram picture was a step up from Someone to Watch Over Me.
But it was also a step up from Legend for me. You know, I agree. I gave Legend a 2. I gave Someone to Watch Over Me a 2. This movie, I'm going to give a 3.5.
Okay, I was expecting you to go fucking 5 with the way you've been talking about it.
No. I had to. I honestly, watching this movie, it went as low as a 2.5 and as high as a 4.
Okay.
What put it over what brought it back to a 3.5 was that fucking Hans Zimmer score, dude.
Interesting. I might have to listen to that score again, because like it didn't do much for me. I was like, yeah, this seems like early Hans, just sort of working through the motions.
It did a lot for me.
Okay. Yeah, I give this movie 3 stars.
Okay.
I think I was sort of just the whole movie. I was just sort of like, well, I guess, you know, my heart hasn't stopped beating, so I guess that's good.
Yeah, I think
it's better than that. It's better than that. It's a fun cop movie. Like, if for nothing else, like, there you go. You got a movie star in a fun cop movie being a movie star.
The best looking fun cop movie.
Is it the best looking of all the fun cop movies? I don't know. I'd have to make a list.
I haven't seen too many cop movies where I'm like, wow, that's a great looking shot. One other thing, like the opening.
I mean, like
scene,
Michael Mann is all cop movies that look unbelievable.
You know, there's some gorgeous Michael Manns. You know,
they're all gorgeous.
Right. I know you're a big Michael Mann guy.
Oh yeah, I'm a man for man.
Wow, this is way long ago in my notes. You know how I like my exposition dumps?
Okay.
Yeah. You got a good one. Because I was trying to get back to this gorgeous apartment shot in the early on in the movie. That's why I got there. But he uses an answering machine for the exposition to get a little background on Nick. You get like
Oh,
three
really?
messages. Yeah, I like that. Good technique.
Yeah, I guess that's not bad. It's not a
My favorite character is Nick Conklin. What's your favorite character?
probably Moss.
Moss, babe.
Probably.
Okay.
I can't like Nick because he's a fucking bastard and a pain in my ass, but
He gets the job done.
God. All right.
That's classic 80s.
All right. Any other thoughts on Black Rain?
I think we're pretty good. Pretty good. I liked it. A lot of fun.
I think it's good. Yeah. I mean, it's mid-tier, Ridley. Like, this is not going to make my top 10 when we're done with this series, but it's fine. It's a good movie.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it lands on mine.
This is how we're going to keep track of this. It's still no movie has topped The Duelist for me. We started off strong and we're still sitting pretty on top of The Duelist.
It's still blasphemy, folks. Everyone knows it's Alien. Alien's a masterpiece.
I love Alien. All right. Well, next week we're doing Thelma and Louise. It's a big one.
Oh, can't wait.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen Thelma and Louise?
I've never seen Thelma and Louise.
Oh, I can't wait.
So next episode, we're going to get into that. His first Best Director nomination.
Sweet.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome.
Big one. Yeah. Oh, we didn't really talk about it, but this movie was a big hit, Black Rain, which he needed after his long.
This movie was the 5th biggest hit of the year.
Wow. I didn't look up the year stats. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I think it was number 1 in Japan for quite a while.
That makes sense.
Yeah. People loved it over there. Rotten Tomatoes, 52% critically, 55% audience right in the middle.
That's surprising. Okay.
So that means they agree with you a little bit.
Kind of just fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it a little more than everyone else, apparently, and that's fine.
That's fine.
You know what? And that's because I like Michael Douglas a little more than everyone else too. So
I like him a lot.
No, I'm just kidding. This movie Black Rain did have an estimated budget of $30 million, and I think it made.
What did it bring in? Like 140?
Oh, I had it and I lost it.
I know it was a hit, so that's cool. He needed a hit after his last 4 movies were all flops.
Yeah, I'm seeing 134 million
worldwide. That was close. Yeah.
Profitable in the US also. So yeah, it was a good movie.
All right, cool. Well,
thanks everyone for listening.
Next episode, Thelma and Louise. It's gonna be great. Can't wait.
Rate us or not rate us. Rate us. Leave us a review, comment. We'll read it.
Yep.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Yep. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
See you
later.